I want to tell you about Hosea. Hosea is a prophet of God. Now, a lot of times when we think about prophets, we think about people who speak for God. And of course, that's the case. But here's something cool. When God first speaks to Hosea, He doesn't direct him to say something, but instead He directs him to do something. And here's what God wants Hosea to do. He says, "Go take to yourself an adulterous wife and have children with her, because the land is guilty of the vilest adultery in departing from the Lord." Did you get that? God tells Hosea to go and to marry a woman who is going to cheat on him, a woman who's going to end up sleeping with someone else. And God says, "I want you to have children with this woman. And then you will begin to understand how I feel, because my people have been grossly unfaithful to me." And so Hosea does. He goes and he marries a woman named Gomer. Now, I know somewhere out there somebody is laughing about how goofy that name sounds, Gomer. So I'm going to allow you to finish, get all your laughter out. Are you done? Okay, good. We'll carry on now. Hosea marries Gomer, and they have 3 children together. Well, at some point, what God said in the beginning comes to pass. Gomer cheats on Hosea. She begins a relationship with another man. She starts sleeping with somebody else. God was right. But now listen to what God says to Hosea. He says, "Go again. Love a woman who is loved by another man and is an adulteress." He's talking about Gomer here. And God says, "You are to do this because I love the children of Israel, though they turn to other gods." God tells Hosea, "Go and take Gomer back." And so that's what Hosea the prophet in the Old Testament does. He goes and he buys his wife back for 15 shekels of silver and some barley. Apparently, Gomer had been made a slave of someone. Because it costs Hosea to get her back, he has to pay a price. And Hosea says to Gomer when he buys her back, "You shall dwell with me. You shall no longer sleep with someone else. You shall belong to no other man, and I will be faithful to you." Our word is redemption, and this is a story of redemption. Gomer is redeemed by Hosea, and the price of her redemption is some silver and some barley. But let's think beyond Hosea and Gomer and their children and the silver and the barley. Let's think beyond the particulars of this account. This is a story of God's willingness to purchase the people that He loves out of bondage. This really is the story of us in all our sinfulness, in all our brokenness, and the God of mercy and love and grace who chooses to redeem us. If you've been a Christian for very long at all, you've heard the word redemption or redeemed or redeemer. These words belong in that list of big, long words that some people like to call Christianese. And what they mean by that is the language that Christians use to speak to one another that really makes no sense to outsiders. The word redemption belongs on that list, and a lot of the other words that you're going to be hearing and learning about in this series, they belong on that list too. But here's the problem. It's not just outsiders who have trouble understanding Christianese. A lot of Christians can't even speak their own language. Some Christians don't know what words like redemption mean, and maybe you're among those. So what is redemption? Well, here's a very simple definition, and we'll say it a couple times so that we can learn it together. Redemption is the idea of paying a price in order to regain something that would otherwise be lost. Let's say it again. Redemption is the idea of paying a price to regain something that would otherwise be lost. Well, we want to break this down even further so that we can understand it even better. When you've got redemption, there are three elements, there are three components that are present in this idea of redemption. And lucky for you, they all start with the letter P. First of all, with redemption, there is a prison. When it comes to redemption, there's some kind of enslavement. There's some kind of bondage. In the Hosea story, Gomer becomes a slave to her lover. And really, she becomes entrapped and she becomes captive by her own poor choices. She's trapped in a prison of her own making. And what she needs more than anything is to be set free from her prison. That's number one. Number two, the second P is price. For the prison to be destroyed, for the prisoner to be set free, a ransom must be paid, a payment must be made. Now, in the case of our story of Hosea and Gomer, that payment is some silver and some barley. That's what it takes for the prisoner to go free. That's the price that Hosea has to pay for Gomer to be set free. So we have prison, we have price, and the third P is person. There is someone who acts to secure the redemption. And the person in our story is Hosea. He is the one who pays the price for the prisoner Gomer to go free. He is the Redeemer. So we have prison and price and person. These are the three components of redemption. There's this old movie called The Love Bug, and it came out in the 1960s, a long time ago. There have been a lot of sequels and remakes, but I'm talking about the original Love Bug. The movie was about a Volkswagen Beetle that had a mind of its own. You couldn't control it. And there's a scene in this movie where a man and a woman, they're riding around in this car together. They don't want to be together. They don't enjoy each other's company, but there's no way out. The car is going too fast for them to get out, and the doors are locked, and so they're stuck together. Well, the car cruises on well into the evening, and finally it stops at a drive-in restaurant. The woman sees this as her opportunity to escape, and so she tries the door. Well, big surprise, it's still locked. She can't get out, and she feels more trapped than she has felt during the whole trip. She starts banging on the car window. Please, somebody, let me out of here. Help, I'm trapped. And she spots this van sitting next to the car, and there are these two old hippie guys sitting in the front seat. And she's banging on the window and she's saying, help, please, I'm trapped, I'm a prisoner. Somebody get me out. One of these old hippies turns to her and he says, we all prisoners, cheeky baby. We all locked in. You know what? That old hippie's right. I mean, we can excuse the cheeky baby part. That's a little weird, and that has nothing to do with redemption. But the other stuff that he said, that's right. We're all prisoners. We're all trapped. We're all locked in. Gomer is not the only prisoner here. We all are. Oftentimes, the New Testament calls people slaves. It says that we're slaves to sin, slaves of sin, slaves to impurity, under the yoke of slavery. We are bound. We're trapped. We're all locked in. You know, a lot of us, like Gomer, are trapped within prisons of our own making. We are captives of our own poor choices. We dwell in the prison of envy, the prison of anger, the prison of materialism, the prison of gossip, the prison of lust or pornography, the prison of selfishness, the prison of pride. And what we need more than anything is for this prison to be destroyed and for us to be set free. What we need is someone to come and pay whatever price it takes to get us out. What we need is redemption. One of my favorite stories from the Gospels is from Luke chapter 4. In this chapter, Jesus is in his hometown of Nazareth, and it's the Sabbath day, and as was his normal custom, he goes into the synagogue, the Jewish place of learning. And he's going to read a passage from the Old Testament for all the people gathered there that day. And so he takes a scroll and he unrolls it, and it happens to be from the prophet Isaiah. And these are the words of the prophet Isaiah that Jesus read before all the people gathered there that day. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And then, without further comment, Jesus rolls up the scroll, hands it back to the attendant, and has a seat. And Luke tells us that all the eyes of the people gathered there are fixed on Jesus. This is a very dramatic moment. But Jesus has one more thing to say to the people. He says, "Oh, and by the way, all of that stuff that I just read, that has been fulfilled today in your hearing." In other words, I have come to do all of that. That is my mission. Well, what is that? Did you hear what Jesus said? Well, among other things, Jesus said that He has come to proclaim liberty to the captives. He's come to set prisoners free. And Jesus Himself reminds us that if the Son sets you free, then you will be free indeed. So we're in prison. We're in captivity, in bondage. And Jesus is the one who promises to set prisoners free. Well, hooray! That's great news. Problem solved, right? Well, we've just covered 2 P's, and there's one left, and that's price. Paul reminds us a couple different times in the New Testament that you were bought with a price. Well, what is this price? What does it cost for the Son, Jesus, to set the prisoners free, to set us free from slavery? Paul says it all in Ephesians 1:7. He says, "In Him, Jesus, we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of His grace." Jesus Christ is the Redeemer, the person who can set us free. Our sin makes up the prison which entraps us, which locks us in. But did you catch the price that Paul mentions? The price is the blood of Jesus. Paul says we have redemption through His blood. And it's the blood that Jesus spilled when He went to the cross and He died there for you and for me. That's the price. That's how much it cost. The price that Hosea paid to redeem Gomer was just some silver and some barley, not really a whole lot. The price that Jesus paid to redeem you and me and all of us, well, that's really priceless. It's of unimaginable, incalculable worth, because Jesus gave up Himself for us. His death is the payment for your redemption. We all locked in, as the old hippie so wisely said. But Jesus is here to bust us out. And it doesn't matter how strong the prison is that you're trapped in, Jesus' death tears the bars away from any prison, from every prison which holds us captive. You know, Jesus' death is all about love. That's really what the story of Hosea and Gomer is about too, isn't it? But as much as Hosea loved Gomer, it really pales in comparison. It doesn't even hold a candle to the love that God has for you and for me and for all of us. Despite our unfaithfulness, despite our brokenness, despite our sinfulness, Jesus Christ died to pay the price for your freedom from sin. And that is redemption.